Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's great to have you here. This is another in our series of coffee clashes, and we've done them live before. Of course, now we're doing them via Zoom, and we found that actually on Zoom it's been more convenient for a lot of folks. You're able to log on from home or your place of work or whatever, and so we've been getting even better attendance. So the Zoom formation of coffee clashes is probably something we'll stick with. We may go to a hybrid format here at some point in the future, but for right now, we're just doing these on Zoom. We typically try to move the times around as well. We did that when we did them live. We'd move around the city and move the times around, have some in the evening, some in the morning, some at the lunch hour. The last several have been in the evening. And so we thought we'd do a lunch hour one to maybe get folks that weren't able to tune in during the evening. Maybe it's more convenient for you on your lunch hour at work or if the kids are at school or whatnot. So we'll try different things, and it may be that there's not a lot of folks that want to tune in at this time, or maybe that there are some, but we wanted to give the opportunity. And so please send your questions in via Facebook Live, and we'd like to answer those. Got other staff on the phone as well, but basically, these coffee classes are designed for you to ask questions and for me or staff members to answer them. I can kick off with some updates on city things and whatnot, but I get plenty of opportunity to do that. So usually the whole hour is taken up with a Q&A, and that's what this is designed for. So please feel free to start sending your questions in. So a brief update to kick us off would be on the transportation and some things I wanted to update you all on. You're probably aware of this, but one of our bigger transportation projects that was completed here in this year was the First Street Bypass project. We continue to get a lot of great feedback on that. A lot of people are using it. It's a great way to get to and from the East Side foothills or the Sunnyside area down to State or to the freeway or wherever it is you want to go, 529. That's been a great project, and it was a long time coming. I want to thank the council for funding that. Very important project for our city. It'll be even more important when the I-5-529 interchange comes in, which I wanted to share with you. That is another big project coming. You've heard me talk about that a lot if you've been in these coffee clashes, but the I-5-529 interchange is scheduled to begin construction in the summer of 2022, next year. And it'll be about a 2-year project, should be completed mid 2024. So when that's in, the traffic will feed off of I-5 onto 529, come in over the bridge into Marysville. And the First Street Bypass will be even more critical because that'll divert a lot of traffic just straight up east where a lot of our housing is, a lot of our housing growth. And so, you know, not everybody's colliding at 4th and State because you'll still have exit 199. But on the new interchange, you won't have to deal with the railroad tracks. And for those that live in the southeast portion of the city, or even maybe even not just the southeast, but even as you get a little bit further north, it might be more convenient to take that new interchange and take the First Street Bypass and go up that way. Then we'll still have all our other interchanges. But this is a great example of, you know, forward thinking, and we're building out some good infrastructure, I think, to help with some of the growth that we're experiencing in the Sunnyside foothills and in the eastern part of our city, critical projects. So both the I-5-529 interchange and the First Street Bypass are really designed to help with that and to help get us away in and out of the community around the railroad tracks. So that's First Street Bypass, of course, is done. 529 interchange is coming. You probably noticed the State Avenue widening project. It's been a little bit painful to deal with that. I know if you're trying to traverse that area, but it's a great project. It will give us 5 lanes over that bridge, that area from 100th to 104th. And then after that, we'll be able to widen 104th to 116th. And so State will be 5 lanes all throughout the city, north and south. That was kind of the toughest area to do that on, was this bridge deck area, the 100th to 104th that we're doing right now. And so it'll be great. We'll have a State as a full 5 lanes that'll accommodate a lot of future issues that we may have, and it'll help folks even right now. So excited about that. And then as we move down the calendar a little bit, you start looking out towards the 156th interchange. And that's a project that begins in 2025. Probably, we don't actually have an end date on that one yet, but it's funded in the state Connecting Washington package, along with the 529 interchange that I just talked about. That'll really help with the traffic situation out in the Cascade Industrial Center with the new businesses moving in there, as well as some of the growth in housing and multifamily out in that area. So it's a critical thing, and it's a great project that we have fully funded and ready to go for our future. And so we're excited about the 156th interchange. That's where we built the crossover, the overcrossing there as a city project several years ago. It was always designed to be a full interchange, but we had to get it funded. And so that is now funded, and we'll prepare for that. In Arlington as well, you should know that another part of Connecting Washington that is not a Marysville-led project, but an Arlington-led project is the widening of 172nd, which will be absolutely essential, particularly with some of the growth going on in Arlington right now, both some of their housing growth and their manufacturing and industrial growth. That is a critical project. And that, I think, is 2023 start date. So in the 2023 to 2025 time range. So that is coming as well, and may affect some of you who live out in the Smoky Point area. So those are some really big transportation projects, some completed, some coming, and some in the works right now that I think are really critical to our city, and a lot of forethought and foresight went into that. And we've tried to lead on that, and I want to thank the city council as well for funding the portions of that we needed to fund, and that we're getting tens of millions of dollars in grant money, in state grant money primarily, in for those projects, which is just huge. And so our partners at the state and the work we put into those relationships is really paying off there. I want to thank our partners at the state also for their work on that and for the funding for that. Quiet zones is something else I wanted to update you on real briefly. It's tied to transportation. And so, with the trains coming through Marysville, and anybody who's lived here for any amount of time understands that, whether you work here or live here, we're looking at right now, and we're just studying it and looking at how it would be done, how much it would cost to try and put the infrastructure in that would allow us to apply for a quiet zone, which would mean, if it were ever approved, that we would that the BNSF and that the trains would not need to honk their horns when going through town. Now, in order to do that, you have to harden all those big intersections with a lot of infrastructure to make it much more safer and really very, very difficult for somebody to run through that when a train's coming. That's how you acquire the quiet zone. So it's not an easy thing. It takes a lot of planning, a lot of engineering, a lot of permitting, and then it would take construction, and it would take all the dollars that go with that. And it's not cheap. We're talking, a significant amount of money. So it's not something we take lightly, but we are looking into it. The council has directed a study. I've been a proponent of looking into this for many years now. And so we should be able to get some hard numbers here in the coming months to the city council to consider, that particular project. And again, not an easy decision because of the dollars that will be involved, but I think it is something that at some point in our community, we're probably going to want to look at. And I think, it's the costs are not going to go down in all likelihood. So that's something to keep your eye on here. It won't happen in the immediate future, but something we're looking at for down the line. Parks projects. The Centennial Trail Connector is something we opened up earlier this year. And that is a project we're all very proud of. Even while we were doing the ribbon cutting out there, we had somebody ride a bike through there and just thank us. And so it's a well-used trail, and it connects Bayview to the Centennial Trail, and is the first time we've connected the citizens of Marysville directly to the Centennial Trail. So it's a big deal, a big project, something that's been planned for quite some time, and that we opened up here earlier this year. And hopefully you've been able to get out and enjoy it. If you haven't, walking, jogging, horse riding, back riding, or biking, whatever method you want to use, it's a great opportunity to get from our Bayview Trail in Marysville to Centennial. So I would encourage you to take the opportunity to do that if you get the chance. So the Centennial Trail Connector is probably our most recent large-scale project. We also opened a Olympic View Park earlier this year, which was really exciting. A lot of people were enjoying that, some great views, some great activities. And so Olympic View Park out near Sunnyside neighborhoods is another one for you to check out. And then one of our more recent offerings that we've started on and hasn't been completed yet is the pickleball courts at Jennings Park that you may have heard of. Pickleball is a quickly growing sport, and this is something that our pickleball club has been asking for a few years now, and the council funded that here earlier this year. We actually got a great jump on construction of those and nearly got them complete before the weather turned on us here in October. But they're ready to go for a quick completion in the spring, and then you'll be able to get out and enjoy those. So you can drive by and see the progress that's been made so far on those, but that'll be another great addition to our community. And appreciate the council funding those and the pickleball club and all the work they put into that, and all our city staff work that went into making that a reality, and actually getting us a real jump on the construction of that. And then finally, we're also, looking at a pump track. I hadn't heard of a pump track before. A young man in our community brought it to us, brought it to our parks board, I believe, several months ago. They're growing in popularity. It's for cyclists of all ages and of all talents. And I think there's one in Bellingham. There's a few around the area that people are really having to go to from our community on long drives to get to them. So we wanted to provide the opportunity right here in Marysville. It'd probably be somewhat of a regional attraction, but it'll also, I think, be something that our residents really have a great time with. So a pump track is something that the council's funded as well. We're looking at putting that in here next year sometime, and looking forward to having people be able to enjoy that as well. So that's some of the parks projects and trail projects that we're looking at. We are trying to make the community more walkable and bikeable where we can. New roads that are put in do require bike lanes, curb gutter, sidewalk. In addition to just the regular transportation projects, we also want to provide more parks and trails opportunities for people on that. So if you have any questions, I don't know what questions might be available. Typically, we have a number of questions coming in at this time. And so invite you to just send your questions in, and we'll go ahead and get started on those. If there are any, of course, I can continue to chat for a while. If not, and then we'll see what is going here. And so one thing that I did want to mention also, as you're thinking of questions, is the financial situation. I get a lot of questions on finances. And so we see some questions are piling in here. So I'll address finances here in a minute. First question is, what is going on with the lot next to the skate park? Oh, great question, Donna Hurst asked that. That is going to be a new multifamily project. And I was actually out there for the groundbreaking, I think it was last week, Monday. Strawberry Courts, I believe, is the name of it. A local developer that was just really pleased with that. They own some other properties in Marysville. I think the nice thing about this is, this is kind of the area in the downtown where we want multifamily, close to transit service and close to other transportation and shopping opportunities. And it also took an area that was really kind of run down and had been vacant for a lot of time and overgrown. It's already cleaned up, as you pointed out, and it will be a new multifamily project that will be constructed there here in the coming months. So thank you for that. A really good question. And we've got a few questions here. Let me catch up a little bit. We have a hoarder property. This is from Debbie Ford. We have a hoarder property in our neighborhood. Code enforcement has been contacted, and we have seen a city vehicle. Is there any other city resource to assist to clean this up? If it's a hoarder property, Debbie, that is, you've got the right spot with code enforcement. Just so you know, and I may ask the chief to chime in on this one here in a minute, just so you know, when it comes to hoarder properties or properties that are dealing with code enforcement, sometimes these start off, we always look for voluntary compliance. We're not looking to fine people, not looking to make people's lives harder than they need to be. We just want them to clean it up. And the court will insist upon that even if we didn't, right? So you're never going to get to the position where you can do fines and things of that nature until you've tried for a significant period of time to help them clean the property up. So that's maybe the process that they're in. Sometimes we get really hard cases where people just refuse to clean it up, and then we do need to go to court and go down the fine path. That's the small minority of cases. I don't know what your situation is, but if you've got code enforcement involved, that's the place to go. Chief, do you want to maybe chime in, and maybe we can commit to following up on this and making sure it is in our code enforcement docket and that we're able to assist in all the ways needed on this?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Mayor. And I would just encourage the person that asked the question to reach back out to code enforcement. Feel free to inquire as to the status of the complaint. There are a variety of complaints that we work around the city, and so it's very important for us to hear from you if we need to get back out there or follow up on that. We do keep track of those, and we do keep checking back on complaints. But it is important for us to hear from you what you're seeing out there, because that helps us direct our resources.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate that. And so if you could just maybe, Chief, if we could follow up on that and just make sure that we're involved in that, and we've got her and got code enforcement's opened up a case and all that, that'd be great. And then if you could continue to follow up with us on your situation, if you don't feel like there's movement, we can answer the questions and whatnot.
Definitely, we'll definitely do that.
Thank you. Kelly Hoonfield, appreciate that. Not a question, just wanted to thank us for the service. Really appreciate that. Thank you for that. Sonia Sar, when we'll be able to have in-person coffee classes again? Really good question. We would like, I think we would like to do that. I think we're trying to balance it. The attendance has been so much better at the virtual ones, Sonia, that we want to make sure that if we go back to live, we can have some form of a hybrid, I think, so that we don't miss all the people that are attending the virtual ones. And so I think it's a balance between wanting to make sure we get an opportunity for those that would like to come in live, and then also have a hybrid virtual portion. It would also be nice if we could do it, maybe when we were in a little bit better situation where we didn't have to enforce mask wearing and whatnot. I think, people that come in may want to, it may be easier for them to ask questions and whatnot if we weren't in a situation where we had the masking situation. So we thought we were headed towards that a few months ago, and then we're back where we are today. So maybe that might be loosened here in the near future. But if it's not, we can still have one. It doesn't preclude us from having one live. So thank you for that. Any word on the firefighters that were let go last week from the fire department who weren't accommodated? Sonia asks. Yeah, good question. The Regional Fire Authority is completely separate from the city. It's governed by a separate board, and then the fire chief that they hire, which is Martin McFalls. So they don't report up through the city. So I don't have direct knowledge of that, other than to say that, I have encouraged them to accommodate those folks. I think there's 5 of them. I believe we should do that. It's a difficult time to be going out and trying to hire new folks, and I don't think we want to lose that experience in our community. I also think that I am not personally in favor of seeing anybody lose their job at this point in time due to the mandates. So hopefully we can find accommodations, but again, that doesn't report up through me. So we're kind of at where we're at with that. I have not received an update since the fire board meeting last week. And I apologize if I'll try and catch up on some of the earlier questions here in a moment. I know I'm falling a little bit behind. Let's see, Chris Davis, you've spoken a lot about connecting the city via transportation projects and trails. What are the city's plans to rebuild damages done to the community by political alliances and increase of hate speech and intolerance? Our diversity and equity committee's meeting and plans on that. Okay, yeah, thanks, Chris. Appreciate that. Connecting the city via transportation projects and trails. I think I talked about some of that in the opening. The First Street bypass, the 529 interchange, the Centennial Trail connector, EB Waterfront Trail. We've got a load of projects that are either in the works or completed that I think are really doing an amazing job of connecting the cities via projects with parks and trails or transportation projects. So I would just look at those projects, as well as the State Avenue project we've got going that I talked about, 156th interchange coming. We also have the Grove Street overcrossing, a project that's in Senator Hobbs' transportation package, the Forward Washington package, if that gets funded, either in this coming session or the next one. That will provide a way over the tracks at Grove, in addition to the new 529 interchange that's coming. And Grove was chosen because we don't have to have many, if any, property takes. If you try to do an overcrossing at our other intersections like 88th or 4th, way too expensive. And in the case of 88th, it would take you over state. You got the cemetery and all that, and people can't get to state. On 4th, you'd have to buy up a ton of properties. It's a 5-lane roadway. You're talking well over $100 million to do a project like that. So at any rate, that's why Grove was chosen. But if we get Grove and the 529 interchange, I think that would be a really good start to getting this way over in and out of the city and around the trains. So hopefully I've answered your questions on the transportation and trail projects. There's a load of them. I can go into more detail and find more later. With regards to the diversity and equity committees and the other portion of your question, yes, we have a diversity advisory committee here at the City of Marysville that is meeting. It kind of got rebuilt here in the last year or so. It was a committee that had a membership that had kind of decided to put it in ad hoc status, and there had been a lack of individuals coming to meetings and things of that nature, a few years ago. But now we've got renewed interest. We've got a full committee again. They're meeting on a regular basis. Jason Smith internally here manages that for the city, and so we do have that meeting. And I signed a joint equity statement with regards to some of your other question with the Tulalip tribes in the city of Marysville just about 2 or 3 weeks ago. An equity statement that just reinforced our commitment to coming together as 3 key entities in the community on inclusion and equity and making sure that there's equality of opportunity all throughout our community. And of course, at the city, we always look to ensure that we're reaching out to communities that maybe haven't always had the same opportunity to participate in activities as others, and to ensure that we're reaching all communities and all individuals in our city. So thank you for that question. Preston Dwoskin, you had talked about, I saw your question earlier on a Civic Campus update and hiring more police officers. So I'll take the Civic Campus first. Civic Campus is, as you can see when you're walking by, going up very quickly. And it's due, so there's two parts of this project. The public safety portion of it is really the priority. That's the portion that was funded by the voters through the measure that was passed a few years ago. And that's the priority. We're trying to get that done first. That would include courts, the new police administration building, the new jail, all of that, everything that has to do with the public safety portion. We think that'll be done probably in the spring of next year and allow that move to take place sometime, by late spring of next year. The rest of the portion of the Civic Campus that will allow us to consolidate most of our city services there, and that's the 4-story wing to the south, probably looking at a summertime completion and move in there. So that's kind of what we're looking at there. And then you've got an amphitheater and a public space out there and all of that will be, coinciding with that completion, where we hope to be able to have some really fun community events, everything from, Marysville for the holidays to summertime events and all of that. So really looking forward to that. It'll be a real community asset, and looking forward to that completion. With regards to hiring more police officers, absolutely. We are desperately trying to do that. We have, I think, at least 11 open and funded positions. I think the chief updated me a couple of days ago. I think we got 2. Chief, you can pipe in here. I think we've got 2 in academy, 2 awaiting academy. And so we probably have at least, my guess is 9, 10 open positions on top of those folks. So it's not a matter of budgeting. The city council has very generously funded those positions. We've got plenty of police officer positions funded. It's very hard to hire police officers right now, to be honest with you. And that's what every city's facing across the state and probably across the country. But Chief, could you update on how many we have in the pipeline?
Yeah, definitely, Mayor. So your numbers are exactly right. We have 5 new police officers that we've hired over the past few months, with 2 in the academy. 3 are currently awaiting to go to the academy. And that's one of the challenges that all cities are having right now, is there's so much hiring going on around the state that we're now pushed out into next year to send our new recruits to the academy. We have another final job offer that just went out to a new police officer that will start with us in November. And we have a number of other backgrounds that are in process as well. We're also looking good in our custody department because we're adding new custody officers to our jailing operations as we look to occupy the new public safety building and our brand new jail that the voters approved. We're very appreciative of that. And we've hired 2 new officers of the 10 that we'll need to help staff that facility. We have a lot of interest in our custody positions from around the region and have a long list of laterals that are interested in that. So we have a lot of good hiring momentum going. And right now we're currently looking to add some lateral police officers to our mix of entry-level officers that'll help round out the experience and also get some people out on the road just a little bit sooner as we work to mitigate that academy backlog.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Chief. Appreciate it. I'm going to try and catch up on some of the earlier questions. As I handled Preston's on the Civic Campus in the skate park one. Roads and transportation should be constructed before the homes and multifamily structures are built. Jackie, yeah, thank you for that comment, Jackie. I understand and agree with that comment. In some instances, that is able to happen. With, for instance, the First Street bypass is a really good example of that. The First Street bypass is being built in front of the 529 interchange so that you didn't have an interchange that dumped everybody onto 4th and State. There's only so many of those projects that honestly a city our size can handle financially. The council budgeted and built that First Street bypass ahead of time like that. The 156th overcrossing is another example. We built that, man, over a decade ago. And now you're starting to see that development in the Cascade Industrial Center. So it needs to become a full interchange. Usually when the issue comes in is when we're looking for grant dollars. So again, a city our size doesn't have the resources to build $40 million interchanges or these kind of projects. We can save up and build First Street bypasses, or we can bond for them. We can do some other smaller scale projects that are actually fairly large. The First Street bypass is not what I would call a small scale project. But when you're talking a project of $10 or $15 million compared to a project of $45 million, you get an example of that. So where the problem comes in is for these state projects, which we're in the running for, you almost never get a state funded or a federally funded project until you can point to a problem, because there's just too many other projects that are in crisis mode for them to fund. So in other words, if we were to go to the state and try to compete on a project in an area that was largely not built out yet, and they've got 5 or 10 other or 20 or 30 or 40 others applying for projects in places that are congested like crazy and backing up onto the freeway and all that, ours is never going to get funded until we can show, hey, look at all this development, look at these new businesses coming in, et cetera, et cetera. And that's the way it works across the country, I'll be honest with you. So there are certain limited occasions where you can build the infrastructure ahead of time, generally as a city, when you can, but when you're competing for large scale projects, you're competing against communities that are at crisis mode with traffic situations. And so you've got to at least have a close to difficult situation to compete with that. And so I'm just being honest with you there. That's just the truth. It'll probably never be like we would all want it, where we just put in big 5-lane roadways and then, then we start constructing businesses or houses or whatever. And when it comes to construction of houses and multifamily structures and things like that, keep in mind also there's very little that cities have left to do in regards to this. In other words, the Growth Management Act that was passed in the early 1990s in Washington State says that population that's coming into the state, and we are a growing state and we have been for several decades now, will be allocated to all these different communities. So we get a population allocation every few years when this is studied, and we're required to build or to zone to accommodate that. And so, as a city, you can't just say, well, we're just done. And we're going to have another allocation coming up in 2023. And so they'll say, well, here's, in an urban growth area, here's what this city is required to take in. Here's what this city is required to take in. And then your urban growth area gets expanded after that. And because this state decided with the Growth Management Act to really centralize housing and all of this in small areas, so it can be around services and whatnot, you've got a lot of housing and a lot of businesses, and a lot of commercial, lumped into smaller areas. And so I'm not entirely satisfied with growth management. I'll be honest with you. I think it's created some of these problems, but it is the law of Washington State. And so we as a city have to live by it. And so when we're allocated our certain amount of housing and we've got to provide a certain amount of jobs for that housing, that's not something we can just say we're not going to do. We have to, and the city council has to zone that. And then if they come, right? So you have to create the zoning. And once the zoning's created, if somebody comes in and says, I want to put up a housing development or a multifamily unit there, or a commercial entity like Costco or Target or whatever, you can't arbitrarily say, well, no, we're not going to allow that, because if it's zoned and if they're willing to pay all the fees and whatnot that are required, that's private property. They can build that on it. And so if you hear people say, well, they should just shut this down or they should just stop it, it's not even close to that simple. And I think we need to be really honest about that. No matter who makes these decisions, they're bound by laws and private property that exists and zoning requirements brought on by the Growth Management Act and things like that. So if you really wanted that changed, you would have to go to your state legislature and have them completely alter the Growth Management Act, which would be a Herculean task. I would probably be there with you on some changes on that, but that's extremely unlikely. So what we try to do is manage it within the specifications that we can. We require all the traffic mitigation fees and the other mitigation fees, park mitigation fees. We require curb gutter sidewalks. We require bike lanes. We try to make the developments at least have the things we can require, but you have to have a nexus to that too. In other words, you can't require them to build something to fix something that they're not causing. A lot of people don't realize this, but when the Walmart went up, which is very near the neighborhood I live in, there was a huge outcry by our neighborhood. They challenged it all the way to Superior Court, I believe, and lost because of just what I told you. And so it isn't as if it wasn't challenged through the hearing examiner and all the way to the court. But ultimately, these things, generally the court says this is the laws that they've been laid out in the state of Washington. And so, but what we could require of Walmart was, I think, almost $2 million in road improvements. And so all those turn lanes and the widening of the road and all the things that you see up there were paid for by those mitigation fees from Walmart. So, and you may say, well, I wish they would have been required to pay more. Well, you can, again, there has to be a nexus. You can only require them to pay what legally computes out to what they're affecting. But I can tell you, it did handle a lot of the traffic issues up there. So I hope that answers your question. In the time we have, I can't be perfect in answering all of that, but I tried to get you what we could as much there. And feel free to follow up with me personally or on here if you would like more detail. How long after the bridge is complete will it be? I'm sorry, Mark James. How long after the bridge is complete will it be until the rest of the widening up to 1/16 is complete? Oh, good question. Thanks. And Mark's on our city council. Appreciate you always joining these, Mark. And I'm going to ask Jeff Laycock to chime in on that. Jeff, could you give us, do we have a completion date estimate yet that we can share on the 104th to 116th?
Yeah, absolutely, Mayor. We are out there building the bridge, feverishly working on that eastern half. We're looking to have that complete early next year. So that's the first phase between 100th and 104th. We'll be back under the bridge next summer to do the work that's under the bridge. And then also coinciding with that, early next year, we're looking to bid out the phase 2. So that's 104th to 116th. That project, again, we're on track to bid it early next year, which means we'll be under construction likely in spring. And that project will take us out basically a year to the following spring of 2023.
Excellent. Thank you, Jeff. So hopefully that answered that question. I want to thank all the staff that's on here too. I should take a moment, and I'll get some other questions, to just thank, we have an incredible staff here at the City of Marysville, our director team. I will probably won't be able to take the time to introduce them all here, but you can look them up on our website. Phenomenal job. I'll tell you, this team does more with less than any that I've seen in the many cities that I've come into contact with. So your tax dollars are well at work with our team here. And another thing about this City of Marysville team, we get in literally tens of millions of dollars of grant dollars pretty much on a regular basis. I mean, if you average it out over a 10-year span, it's millions and millions of grant dollars every single year. So we leverage your tax dollars, and we, get a lot more for it by matching that, by providing our tax dollars as matches for very large projects that we get grants for. Just that State Avenue project was several million dollars in state grants for that paid for, I think, at least half the project. And you'll see that, Centennial Trail Connector, another one. Pretty much every major project you see, half or more of it is funded through grant dollars, because our team is so diligent about writing those grants. And then the council and I press for them in Olympia and in Washington, D.C. And we pick a handful of them, we go fight for them, and we don't stop until we get it. And then we pick 3 or 4 and go after those. And then there's a lot of smaller grants that the staff just writes, and we get awarded as well too. But council and I are really dedicated to getting those dollars to you from the state and federal government, so that we can have large scale projects in our community that really help. I'm going to tackle a couple of vaccination questions that have come in from Dale. And then we had another one. So Dale, I'll take yours first. Have you heard anything about vaccine mandates for restaurants in Snohomish County similar to King County? I have not. I'm in a meeting with the county executive pretty much every week, and I've not heard him speak of that. I don't know, what his thoughts or feelings are on that. I won't speak for him, but I can tell you I've never heard it mentioned as something that is under consideration in Snohomish County. But again, that's I don't, I'm not privy to everything that's being talked about there, I'm sure, but as of now, I've not heard anything. So thank you for that question, and I appreciate your concern there. Stacy, you asked, and I appreciate Tracy Davis sharing her love for our Marysville Police Department. I would concur with that. They do amazing work. Not an easy time to be a police officer. They need and appreciate your support so much as a community, so that we can continue to help them do their job. And we have a police force that is second to none. Stacy McShane, if federal or state mandate comes down requiring police officers to be vaccinated, will the city comply? So many agencies are losing officers due to vaccine mandates. Yes, Stacy. So I am personally opposed to vaccine mandates. I am personally fully vaccinated, I should say. So it's not that I am anti-vaccine. I myself have gotten 2 shots of Pfizer. What I am against is forcing somebody else to put that in their body at the risk of losing a job, right? I think we can encourage people to study all the facts. You can educate people. You can do all the things you want to do. But at the end of the day, I think that is a government overreach to say that we are going to require you to do this or you lose your job. So I'm personally opposed to that. I think that's intrusive. And I'm very disappointed that's the path we've chosen to go down in Washington State. I think it's a big mistake. And I think communities are paying the price for it. Even those who are, and there's probably a lot of them who are getting vaccinated to keep their job. The ones I know are very, very bitter about it. And it's divisive. It's caused a lot of division in our localities and throughout the state. I think there's just a better way to do this. And so that's my personal feeling on it. I could get up on my soapbox for some time on this. I don't like seeing people lose their job for something like that. I don't know what these mandates are going to look like. I'm not going to make a carte blanche statement on here that I may not be able to accomplish in the future, because I just don't know what they're going to look like. I can say this: I have asked our city attorney and our city staff to look at every way that we can accommodate individuals who have a concern about this particular issue. So what I would say is we're going to go as far as we possibly can to accommodate folks, and what that will look like and how that will be accomplished, I'm not entirely sure of. But we are not going to be, I'm not going to, as mayor, impose a local vaccine mandate. I have not done that. I have no plans to do that. That's not something I would favor. If something is imposed on us from on high, from the state or the federal government, as a lot of things have over throughout this pandemic, we'll have to evaluate that legally. We'll have to evaluate what our options are. I think, one thing we have to realize is sometimes we read things in social media, I'm not doing this or I'm not doing that, but we also have a responsibility as a city council and as mayor and as staff and as city attorneys to look at, well, what are the ramifications to our city and our community, right? And so we have to look at all these different things, but I'm personally opposed to vaccine mandates, and I will do whatever I can to protect people's jobs. But I just don't know what'll be imposed on us and, you know, what we will have to do to try and accommodate those, but we will do what we can to do that. I hope that answers your question. Trying to be perfectly honest with you, because I haven't seen what some of these federal and state mandates look like and what our options will be. So if you have a follow-up, feel free to let me know. Okay, I'm going to try and go down and see if I missed something here. Seems like Johnny London, seems like we have more and more small advertising signs throughout the city on public sidewalks and intersections. Are these signs allowed by city code? That's a great question. I've had council members, I know there's some concern on this too from all of us. Our city attorney will be looking into this. There is I think a freedom of speech issue and some things that we have to deal with on that. It's not as simple as just limiting certain ones by size or location. There may be things we can do. I just don't know, honestly, Johnny. I think this is something the council will be looking at here in the coming weeks. And our city attorney is researching right now. And that would include political signs for people like myself that have put political signs out. I'll be the first to admit to you, they're not that great looking when you got a ton of political signs all over the community. I, in some ways, would favor having that limited in some way just for the attractiveness of our community. And so I think we'll be looking at that, but it will also have to be done, you know, again, like the previous, you know, we have to look at what legally we'll be allowed to do in that situation. And ultimately the council will probably look at that and make a decision based upon all the information that they're given. Dale, that's a very kind comment. I appreciate that. Thank you for the compliment. Dale Killen, appreciate that. And Jenny as well. Appreciate that. Jenny, I appreciate all the work you do. The Salvation Army in town. That's tough work and appreciate what you do. Tracy, thank you for the kind comment. Chris Davis, what is the better way of doing this? I'm not sure I understand the context of that question. I may have missed a earlier comment there, so I'm not trying to not answer it. I just don't understand the context. If you could provide that. If you did it earlier in the feed, I may not be able to find it right away. So if you just type it in real quick, that'd be great. Stacy, thank you. I don't want us to lose any officers due to mandates. I know that many fired officers are coming to work for our city and we want to keep them. Yeah, I agree with you, Stacy. We don't want to lose any officers due to mandates. I'm 100% in agreement with that. We're trying to find more police officers, not lose them. Preston, thanks for that. Appreciate the kind comments there. Let's see if feel free to throw in some more questions. We've still got some time here. I'm going to go back up and bear with me for a minute as I look through here and see if I missed someone. If I missed you, it may be best if you don't mind typing it in real quick again, just so it goes to the top of my feed here. And I did have another update I wanted to give you all. I know that it's not Marysville, but is there a plan to widen the trestle? Tracy Davis asked. Oh, really good question. Yeah. I think that's in the Connecting Washington or the Forward Washington package of Senator Hobbs that I referred to that our Grove Street overcrossing is in. So if that gets passed by the state legislature in 2022 or 23 or sometime down the line, I believe there will be a widening of the trestle in there. I'm not 100% sure because I've mainly focused on our Marysville projects, but I'm pretty sure that was in there. I know that was a top priority of a lot of folks. So I think you will see that at some point here in the 2020s would be my guess. I know I missed that one. Okay, so I'm going to update you on, just bear with me, folks. I'm just going down through here trying to make sure I didn't miss anybody. Oh, Chris. Okay, Chris Davis has clarified. You don't agree with the mandates and said there was a better way of doing this. How would you do things differently? Okay, really good question. Yeah, Chris, I think when you mandate something like as personal as a vaccine mandate, when you're mandating somebody to inject something into their body, again, I'm fully vaccinated. I did my own research. I don't have a problem with it, but we're all different, right? Some of us have different things that we're concerned about. Some people might not want to put that in their body or might not want to at this point in time. I think education and encouragement is the route to take if you're trying to get a population vaccinated. I know I've talked to people, maybe others on this have, that have said, I was thinking about getting the vaccine now that the mandate went through. Why all this force? It's given me a second thought. Everybody's trying to force this down my throat. Now I'm wondering if I should be more concerned. And so sometimes the vaccine mandate can backfire and cause people that were on the route to maybe looking very seriously at getting vaccinated to say, well, why is everybody pressuring me to do this? And I think that backfires. And ultimately, I think at the end of the day, too, we want to be real careful that what we do in a mandate, even if we accomplish, let's say the goal of a person putting a mandate into place is to accomplish a certain percentage of a vaccinated population. And let's say by the mandate, you ramrod it through enough people's throats and you get that accomplished. Have you done more damage in other areas of society by doing that? That it is as a net effect, make it a net negative. Then I'll give you an example. If you divided a society by so much that in issues we need the society to come together on, they no longer will. So yes, you hit your X% of vaccine mandate, but now we have a lot of other things we need to do as a society that we can't accomplish because everybody's so divided by this being rammed down people's throats. Another example would be, have you let so many people go? Let's use the police or fire example. Let's say you let medics and firefighters go due to the vaccine mandate, and I have a heart attack, and it takes an extra minute to get to my house because the personnel is fewer to get there. Have we put people at different health risks because of that? Very similar to when we weren't doing cancer screens and different things throughout this pandemic. We've created some other unintended consequences through that. And I'm not saying that wasn't necessary. I'm just using these examples. If we were to, for instance, if we were to have a city mandate and lay off police officers who didn't get it, are we making the community more safe by that? Or are we making them less safe because now there's less and less officers patrolling the streets, taking care of crime, less people getting folks into drug treatment and things of that nature. So there's a lot of things I think you have to look at beyond just, is a mandate going to get you a few percentage higher on your vaccine? And additionally, I think you look at the protection that is, afforded in the mandate. People can get that protection. The people most at risk are the unvaccinated. We could go on and on about a debate on that. That's not the primary thing I would look at. I would look at what are all the unintended consequences that are going to come from this. And I think I just outlined a few of them, and we could probably talk about that for several hours. I don't really want to turn this into a debate on vaccines and non-vaccines. That's not what this is about. For me, it's just about the mandate. It isn't about vaccine effectiveness or things of that nature. I think there's a lot of good things being done in the healthcare world right now. I just have a problem with the mandates. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate that. Johnny asked, what is the most effective way to help an individual that is homeless in our area? Are clothing donations helpful? Yeah, really good question. Yes, I think donations to agencies or nonprofits that help the homeless, Johnny, where I would focus your money. Please, this may sound hard-hearted, but it's not. It's the most compassionate thing to do. Please don't give the money directly to people that are out on the streets panhandling. Because we have found, and our police officers know this, our social workers know this, people like Jenny who works at the Salvation Army, I think would back me up on this. Most of that money goes to drugs or substance abuse of some sort. But if you give the money to the food bank or to the Salvation Army or to some of the places that provide clothing in the community, they're slipping my mind here, the Goodwill, for instance, or whatever, that money is going to food, to clothing, and to shelter. It's going there, right? If you just hand it out to somebody on the street, you don't know where that money is going. You may be furthering their addiction that will ultimately put them in a spot where they don't recover. And so I appreciate you asking. And so that's what I would do if I were you. That's where I focus my donations, and I would encourage you to do that. Then there's a lot of local ones, and I think if you want more, we could probably get you a list of them. I think we had a little booklet put together of where to donate. And so thank you for that. Thanks, Elise. I appreciate your comment on the mandates. Dave Pohl, no. Johnson versus Massachusetts, vaccines can be mandated. There is not damage to society other than this fight back against precedents that were part of the foundations of this nation, the population's right to overrule. Yeah, no, I appreciate that, David. I think you're probably right. In the court of law, I think vaccine mandates are legal. I'm not debating that. I think you're right. And if your opinion is that that's a good thing, you have every right to that opinion. I'm saying that there are unintended consequences to a vaccine mandate. I'm pretty confident it is legal. I doubt it will be overturned, certainly not in this state. I'm saying that there are unintended consequences to executing that policy. As a policy position, it's not something I would do. I would be in favor of, even though it's legal. There are a lot of things that are legal that we don't do as policymakers because there are other consequences to that policy. And this is one instance where that would be my contention in this issue, as I outlined before. I don't want to repeat myself, but you are correct. It has been shown to be legal. I think even at this United States Supreme Court level, probably close to 100 years ago during the last pandemic. If it's legal, that doesn't mean necessarily that it's the right thing to do. And I think that's where the debate is. Thank you, Tracy. Mark James, my understanding at the westbound side of the trestle will eventually be replaced, but not necessarily wide other than, oh, okay. Mark could be right on that. I think the entrance and exit portions are where the bulk of the congestion is. So yeah, that's just a good question. I think there will be some work done to alleviate the traffic problem on the trestle. I think that's being debated. It's not funded yet, but I think there's a good chance that would happen. Thank you, Renee. Appreciate your comment there. Dale Gillen, who do you endorse in the upcoming elections? Dale, if you could private message me on Facebook, I will give you that. I cannot, I'm not able by law to use city resources to let you know that. And we are on a city resource here in a city coffee clutch. Happy to share with you who I'm endorsed if you just want to private message me on Facebook, or you can text me on my cell, 425-346-9472. That's a public number. That's my personal cell phone, but I've given it out before, so I'm not afraid to. But it'd be best if you private message me on Facebook. That'd probably be the easiest way to go about it. Thank you, John. That's very kind. I appreciate those kind comments very much. Boy, I really am enjoying this. Feel free to send some more questions in here. If I've missed one earlier, please retype it into the box. And we've still got some more time. I really enjoy this, and it's great to see that even the lunchtime, we're getting really great questions and great attendance. We'll, I think, keep having these and move them around. The bulk of them we generally have in the evening time, 5:30 to 6:30 type, or 6 to 7. But I think we should mix in some lunchtime ones too. I know there may be some folks that benefit from that. It's just really encouraging to see all these great questions and great community involvement. You know, I'm going to say something too, just along the lines of, if I could, while we're waiting to see if there's any more questions. And Lori, my understanding the mandate is not a law and it's being shown. Yeah, I'm not sure on that. I'm sure if something comes down from the state, we'll have our city attorney weigh in on that, Lori. But it's appreciate your comment there. Wanted to say something just about the division, you know, across the landscape. You know, we're not going to solve that on a coffee clash by any stretch of the imagination. I don't know that there is a solution to it right now, but I really appreciate. Thank you, Chris, and I appreciate that. And Chris is a good example. Chris and I'll just use that as an example. Hope he doesn't mind. We don't agree on everything, but I've talked with Chris on multiple occasions, had meetings with him, and we can sit down and express our divergent views on things respectfully. And then I think we come together in the areas where we can and work together for a better community. And if we disagree with some, we don't say, well, what I don't say is if somebody I disagree with, you know, 20, 30% of the time, well, you're a 20, 30% enemy of mine. What I'd rather say is you're a 70 to 80% ally of mine, or if it's 50-50, you're a 50% ally of mine. I think we have to get back to society and doing that. That's what I love about local government, is that I think we try to find solutions here in Marysville. Yeah, right. We don't all agree on everything, but I'm the mayor of every single person in this community, whether you voted for me or not, whether you like me or not, whether you agree with me or not, if you have a problem in your neighborhood with a pothole or a house that needs a code enforcement issue or a public safety issue, I don't care really whether, I don't care whether you necessarily voted for me or support me. Of course, I'd like that, but that doesn't determine that we go 110% to get you what you need to solve your problem. I think that's the beauty about local government is we live in this community. The city council and I live in this community. Every dollar of taxes you pay, we pay. Every decision we make that affects you affects us. If we don't get a road built, that affects us. If we have policies that are negatively impacting public safety, that affects us just like it does you. And so we tend to come together around the big things in a community like Marysville. We've got a really great community. Not every city's like that. We've got a community that's really, I think, by and large, remained unified on things, even while the others have divided. I so appreciate that about Marysville. And I just want you to know that if in these coffee clashes, I share things and opinions that you don't agree with, I respect your opinion. And I respect why you disagree and that you disagree. And I want you to know that my goal is to come together in the areas that we can reach agreement on. And I'm open to things. There have been things where citizens have shared things with me that I've changed my mind on. And we've done things differently. There are other things where we've looked into it and said, boy, that's just not the route that we feel is best to take. And so, I think that's something that I hope we can continue to do here in Marysville, no matter how the national scene goes or the statewide scene, that we can continue in Marysville to find ways to come together and express ourselves in a courteous way. We've got to do that. We've got to do that. I think we have to remain respectful. And even though people are concerned about things deeply, let's find a respectful way to do it. I'm going to catch up on a few questions. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate that. Dale asked that we continue to do these virtually. It makes it easier. Yeah, I think that's a good point, Dale. I think we'll try and find a hybrid way to do it when we do live ones. Donna, I was told to call no emergency number about homeless. What would that accomplish? Oh, yeah. Chief Scarpin, can you address if they are, we have a non-emergency number that people can use to deal with issues around, maybe she's having an issue with transient or homeless situation. I'm not sure. Could you discuss that, Chief, why that's helpful to you?
Yeah, definitely. It's great for us to get to know the people that are staying in our community, both our residents and our folks that are homeless as well. We like to form rapport with them when we can, so we can understand what we can do to help them improve their situation. One of the best longstanding programs that we have here is our mental health practitioner, Rochelle Long, and the work that she does with Officer Buell and most recently Officer Allen from the Marysville Police Department. They're really adept at working with our local community resources to help people improve their situations, help them remove nuisance issues and make sure that people are getting the help that they need and in the right way. So it's really a great idea to give us a call. Sometimes we can't get there right away because we might have a more urgent criminal situation that we're dealing with. But when we can, we'll get the right resources there to help connect people with those needed resources in our community.
Thanks, Chief. Hopefully that helps, Donna. Please do use that. If you have a situation where you need to. Cassandra, there's a significant tension within our community, and our citizens are expressing concern regarding several different issues. What are current plans that your teams are working on to ensure our community is moving forward collectively while bringing forward citizen concerns? Yeah, great question and challenging, right? So I think the bringing forth citizen concerns, there's several ways we can do that. These coffee clashes are one, right, where you can directly ask me a question and get my feedback and our staff's feedback. At every city council meeting, the second and fourth Tuesdays, the meetings where they vote, any citizen can come and address the city council and myself and city staff and the public really on any issue that concerns you. You're given up to 3 minutes. We're pretty generous with that. If you go a little over, we don't get carried away, but what we have to have a limit like most do so that somebody doesn't just utilize it for a long speech. But so those are two opportunities right there. I think there's other opportunities where we can team up with the school district tribes to have open forums and things of that nature. I hope we'll do that. I know our diversity advisory committee looks and has held, actually, I think they've held one virtually open forum. I know I attended one. I think it was put on by diversity advisory committee. We'll have more of those. That's another opportunity. If you know, if somebody wants to attend one of those open forums virtually or in person and share. And then of course, you know, it's an open door policy at the city. If you want to reach me or any of our council members, I know our council members are very responsive via email, as am I. So there's ways to do it from that route. So I think that gives you a few avenues that you can reach us. We can always do more and always do better, but I think that's why we try and provide some of these open forums, the virtual coffee clutch. We do these fairly regularly. It's a real way to do that conveniently, hopefully for folks. And there's other ways that we mentioned also. Cassandra, if you want to discuss that more, reach out to me. I'm wide open to providing more of those opportunities. I think you're right. We need more of those and ways for people to express their concerns and issues and bring those forward. Any last questions here as we've hit the hour mark, but if there's anybody with a burning question, I'm happy to take that. Hopefully this has been beneficial. Appreciate all the kind comments, all the great questions. Appreciate all that you all do in the community too. This is what community is. It's citizens like you that are active and interested, and really appreciate that about Marysville. It's a very giving community, and it's also a community that really cares about local issues and all issues. And so thank you for that. I do want to thank our staff and city council. You know, we've really been moving forward on a lot of big projects, and this is certainly in no way, shape, matter, or form just about the mayor and what the mayor's doing. None of this happens without a really talented and effective staff, and none of it happens without a city council that checks their egos at the door and really looks at what's best for the city of Marysville as a whole. And we're blessed to have that. I can speak firsthand. We're blessed to have that in both those cases. So as we wrap up here, I'm going to just check this one last time. Wendy Messerina. Oh, great. Thanks for that. Wendy put up a resource for you in the chat for folks. And Cassandra, thank you. Appreciate that, and I appreciate your work towards those end and helping us on that. And thanks again, Donna. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up. We'll get another one of these on the calendar. I would like to also invite you to keep your eyes open for our coming State of the City addresses. So the main one we'll have down at the Opera House, and apologize, I should have gotten that out. I don't have that date out in front of me here, but we have that ready to go. Connie, if you've got that date, maybe you can put it in the chat. But we're going to have a State of the City address where I'll be able to take a good chunk of time and just update you on everything that happened in 2021 and what's coming in 2022, or not everything, but the big things. And then I take a Q&A there. So that'll be live at the Opera House. We'll probably also look at ways to potentially stream that, but if you can show up live there and would like to, we'd love to have you there. And so looking forward to that. And also do one at the Chamber of Commerce, but the big community one free of charge at the Opera House coming. Look for that towards the beginning of the year, January, February timeframe. One last question came in here. Concerned about a road that needs an actual sidewalk. I see. Okay, Maria, you can put that request into us here at the city. You can email it to me or to Jeff Laycock. I will tell you, with new construction, we require curb gutter and sidewalk, and we require the developer to put that in. When we're talking about filling in old sidewalks, if we tried to fill in all the old ones throughout the community, that would be a massive, massive dollar amount. So that gets much more difficult. But we can certainly look if you have a certain issue. I just don't want to make any promises here. Go ahead and email it to Jeff Laycock at Public Works or to myself if you can't find his. Thank you all. Appreciate it. You've got the State of the City. Looks like February 1st at the Opera House. I think it's 6 p.m. February 1st at the Opera House, 6 p.m. Would love to have you attend the State of the City. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it very much. Thanks for being part of this great community.